everyone. Thanks for joining us on Relational Practice, a social work podcast. I'm Dr. Jodie Park.
I'm Rose Mackey, and we're both private practice social workers here in New South Wales, Australia. We work in the fields of child and family, and we're recording this episode on Darwin land.
As always, thank you for listening. We would love for you to subscribe, rate and review our podcast and connect with us on Facebook, Instagram and via our YouTube page. We also have a webpage that you can find, Relational Practice, a social work podcast.com.au or lowercase. I kind of had a mind blank. It's going to be a great episode. So you can go there. You can find our ambiguous loss printables on our webpage, and we aim to update our webpage. I mean, we say regularly, but it hasn't happened yet. But we
When
do
something to update,
we'll
update.
That's true. We do aim to update our webpage. All right. What are we going to talk about today, Rose?
Today, let's talk about dissociation.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Are you?
I feel like it's something I don't know enough about. So I'm keen. I'm keen today for this conversation. I'm going to be learning from you.
Oh, I hate when she does this. I'm intrigued that you think it's something you don't know that much about. I think sometimes in practice, maybe we don't name it well or we don't understand it enough. And I think many episodes ago, I gave an example of a young person I was working with who disassociated in session. Yeah. And I think back to, and it was a while ago, but what I did. And obviously practice evolves and we have more information and we do better. But yeah, I think it's again another area where the more you know, the better able you are as a practitioner to respond in the moment, to be reflexive.
Yeah.
But also that reflection helps when you're thinking about dissociation, but just having some strategies to be able to work with people in the moment if you are, in a case management role, whatever your role is, if someone's disassociating, to know a little bit and to have some strategies, I think are so helpful in our tool belt. And it's one of those, I know we can't know everything, and I'm certainly not an expert on dissociation, but I just wish we talked about it more as a practitioner group.
Yeah, okay.
Don't you?
Well, I do. I really do. Because like I started, I feel like I don't know enough. And I've kind of thought, and I don't know if this is right or this is wrong, but I've often wondered if dissociation as a word has become a bit of a catch-all phrase.
A bit like trauma. Do you mean overused?
Yeah, overused.
Not completely understood.
Overused, and almost kind of like blamed for things, like for different feelings that happen or for maybe other bodily responses to, big feelings and big emotions. The same thing, I know. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've wondered about whether that's true or not. Like I've often wondered when people have talked to me about, and then I dissociated and I've kind of been left with, yeah, but did you? Or was there something else happening? And I guess I've landed, like a few years ago, it really bothered me. And now I've just landed in this place where if someone comes to me and says, says that I dissociated, there was this going on, then I just kind of treat that like I don't question it. Obviously I wouldn't question it. But whereas I used to be really curious about it, I'm still really curious about it. Now I just take it on face value. Like if someone says to me they experience dissociation, I don't see it as my place to question that. I see it as my place to explore what led up, explore what happened afterwards, and to kind of think about strategies. I don't know if that's right or wrong. That's just kind of the place I've landed in practice with that term, dissociation.
See, I find that so interesting because I think dissociation is everywhere. I think it's all around us in client work. I think we as practitioners actually do it too.
Yeah.
And I wonder, had your client just had so much psychosocial education and really knew their body well and can label it? Because I think when the people that I work with typically wouldn't be saying, and then I disassociated.
Yeah. I mean, this one particular person I'm thinking of has had a lot of therapy.
Okay.
A lot of therapy. from a very young age.
Yeah.
And so I think it's probably been a term that they have learned, and it probably is describing what's happening for them. I'm certainly not saying it's not. I'm just saying that whereas before I would have been a little bit more questioning about it, not to them, but, in terms of forming my own hypotheses to test.
Right.
Now I'm just, okay, if that's what's happening for you, then that's what's happening for you.
Yeah. And I think you linked it to, did you link it to them blaming themselves? Oh, shame.
No, I didn't. But no, I linked it to it being a word that other people use to label things that might be happening, or as a blame.
As a blame, yeah. Okay. Because, I think blame and shame kind of have a close relationship. And I think that from the reading I've done, and I've said it before, I'm not an expert on dissociation, but there is often a lot of shame then that people who are disassociating, and I'm talking up the other end of the continuum, because I do think we all have the capacity to disassociate.
Yeah.
You have ever been driving home?
Yeah.
And then you think, how'd I get here? And you're like, well, I'm here, but I have no actual memory of the last 10 minutes of this drive.
But I didn't know that was disassociating.
What do you think that is then, if it's not disassociating?
In my mind, I thought that was linked to maybe feeling overwhelmed internally, and I don't know. I guess I never saw it as disassociating. I think I saw it as an overwhelmed internal response that. Yeah.
That because your brain is so clever, right? Yeah. And I think it can be an overwhelming response, and your brain then steps in and says,
yeah,
we're going to go offline for a bit because I'm going to protect you.
Which is absolutely disassociating, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know why I've never even put that together before.
Because I think it's something we don't talk about enough in practice. We don't talk about, and this is not about diagnosing anyone or having diagnostic tools. This is just about a level of knowledge about dissociation, so we can be using the word and term correctly. We can understand that it exists on a continuum or a spectrum.
Yes.
And that it is, I guess, something that any one of us can do. It's not just our clients that disassociates. So I guess probably be helpful to define dissociation then.
Yep.
So dissociation is what happens when your brain is trying to protect us, and it creates a split between different parts of our experience. So our thoughts, feelings, memories, our bodily sensations, our sense of identity, they just get disconnected from each other. So normally, if you think about, our brain takes in information from the world, it processes it, it attaches a feeling to it, and then it stores it as a memory, and it integrates it into your sense of, this is what's just happened, this is who I am, this is life. That's integration, but dissociation is the opposite. So it is a very normal function of our brain. It is what happens when, have you heard of Dan Siegel's window of tolerance? Mm-hmm. So in that window of tolerance, and if you picture the visual, and I hope I don't get this wrong, in hyperarousal, when you're in that shutdown, immobilized state, which is also polyvagal language, dissociation exists when we're outside of our window of tolerance and we're in the hyperarousal.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me, yeah.
Is that what you thought dissociation was?
I don't know if I had thought about it and linked it to window of tolerance. I mean, I can see the link though. It makes perfect sense. And definitely in terms of the definition, yeah, that was my understanding of dissociation. I was interested in the because I don't think we think enough or talk enough about how an experience also gets stored as a memory either.
Oh, and I think that would be such a great episode to do, because my understanding of memory is we have, if we are fully integrated and present, our memory gets stored and it becomes part of our long-term memory. But memory is also made up of our senses. Mm. And sometimes what happens, well, as I understand it, when we experience something traumatic, our being able to piece together the smells, the touches, the taste, all of that gets fragmented, and therefore it doesn't get stored at the back of our brain in our long-term memory, and it's kind of fragmented. Yeah. So it's really hard then to have a working memory. And we can create a narrative, absolutely, of what's happened, but it's not it's not stored in our long-term memory, and it's not accessible as a complete story.
Which is why it's so hard to recall traumatic events in this kind of this story, this narrative that goes from the beginning to the end, which has such big implications legally.
Yes.
But also for processing the whatever it is that happened.
Yes.
And I also think when you think about the difference between implicit and explicit memory as well, I think it's fascinating to really understand the role of implicit memory in trauma responses.
Yes. And so add in some dissociation.
Yeah.
In a traumatic event. Now, on top of implicit and explicit memory kind of challenges, you've got a state where your brain has taken over.
Yep.
And I guess it's unplugged your conscious awareness
from
this actual present moment, so it can just let you survive. It's a survival strategy.
Yeah.
It just lets you get through.
Yeah.
But your brain has actually said, hang on, we're going offline for a minute. Or 10, depending on where you are on the spectrum and, how severe your dissociation is. So then your memory, that is my understanding of why it's very difficult for people who have experienced trauma to have that timelined, version of events.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if they dissociate, then you've got a period of time where you're offline.
You're definitely offline. You're
Yeah.
definitely offline. And and it makes so much sense when you explain it the way that you do, because you have to be offline sometimes because, people have lived through just the worst experiences that you could imagine. And they need, our bodies and our brains really do adapt so that we can survive those in whatever way we can.
Yeah. And if you think about from a polyvagal theorist kind of lens, when we fall down our ladder, we fall into flight or fight, and then the next option is immobilization or freeze. And this is my understanding is part of that freeze response. Your body and brain have worked out you can't run away, you can't fight your way out of it, so you can, be immobilized, and that's protective. And part of that protectiveness could be dissociation.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Now I'm stuck here in the worst moment of my life, and it's too much for my consciousness, and our brain takes over and we go offline. Yeah,
you go offline. So stuff can happen to you, but the lights run, but nobody's home.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's within caseloads or client lists, but I also think it's within practitioners too.
Yeah.
Experiences, because you think about vicarious trauma or burnout, compassion fatigue, spiritual pain, any of the outcomes of stress in this kind of workforce. There are situations, moments, weeks, months where the reality of our clients' lives, maybe in combination with our own lives or maybe not, is too much, and we can go offline too. So let's talk about how dissociation exists on a continuum or a spectrum. And I think it's really helpful as a practitioner to try and understand if a client is saying, and then I dissociated, or you're noticing maybe that they're here, but the lights are on and no one's home.
Yeah.
To try and understand where on this spectrum of dissociation maybe do they sit.
Yeah.
And again, not diagnostic. This is not to diagnose anyone. It's just to create some hypotheses.
It's just really good practice information, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
To help you to do sense making. And our job is always about sense making.
And to help people live safely in the world.
100%.
And there are some safety issues around dissociation depending on where you sit on the spectrum.
Well, let's do it. I love that there's a spectrum. I actually had never thought about dissociation in terms of a spectrum before, but it makes so much sense.
Yes, it's so grey, isn't it? Like everything in practice, it's kind of obvious that it would sit in shades of grey.
True.
So level 1 is what people might term normal dissociation. So this could be, maybe where you're daydreaming, you might get really absorbed in a book, brief, mild, there's no distress and there is no functional impact of this dissociation. I think the research says we all do this.
Yeah, so it's not a pathological kind of outcome or input.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's normal.
So this is interesting because in my understanding of dissociation, and we've just kind of talked about this in terms of the definition, it's the brain's way of taking over when you are becoming, maybe overstimulated or stimulated, yeah. Or, or you're in danger, or you just need to kind of have a little bit of a reset. Yeah?
Yes.
So for me, there's no cognition involved in those processes. It's the body's way of protecting.
So, yeah, your brain takes over.
Mm-hmm.
It unplugs your consciousness awareness.
From the present moment.
Yeah, so there is no consciousness. Your brain is acting protectively, but that protectively doesn't have to be a life threat.
No, but see, for me, when I think about level 1, normal dissociation, for me, I think cognition is attached to these processes.
Do you?
I do. I think there's cognition attached to daydreaming. I think there's cognition attached to getting absorbed in a book. There's stuff about highway hypnosis, which is what you said before.
I hate this, but I think that also could exist on a spectrum, the levels of consciousness.
100% I agree with that, yes. No, I wouldn't hate that because it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
We're exploring this topic, Rose.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I've always been previously. I've always been so curious because for me, it's always come down to that, is this just an automatic bodily response or brain response? Or is this more around, there is this level of consciousness attached or cognition attached and you're making a choice.
Yeah, and I think it can be both depending upon so many things, right?
It can be both. Okay. That might just blow my mind. I'm going to think about it in that way, that it can be both. So because I didn't know the answer to that, even though I have done a lot of reading over the years because I've been so interested, that's where I just came to this place of I'm just going to accept what people are telling me.
Yeah. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, right?
No, I don't think so because it's very real for the people who are talking about it. It's like a real thing for them. So it's not my place to go, I don't think that's true.
And let's just hypothesize that it's not true. That could simply just be their language of saying, this is my strategy for not talking about whatever that was.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
So that's protective and there's a level of consciousness to that. But what a great strategy.
Yeah.
Boundaries.
But I had to go through like a process of myself in terms of processing that and understanding that to get to that place. It did take a few years.
Well, I think that making sense can take a long time.
Yeah.
And we are learning new information all the time. So we need to integrate the new information as well. And we've already many times on this podcast talked about how tricky people can be.
True.
So, yeah.
Well, and how tricky it is when we bring our own our own backpacks when we are doing like a sense-making process. It's got to kind of filter through our own perceptions first.
Yeah.
To get to a place of sense-making.
So true.
Yeah. I don't know if we just went off topic then.
Sometimes I think, why don't we just work with numbers? I mean, I know the answer. We both suck at numbers, but how black and white and lovely. In some days, that's my daydream. If it could just be so simple and fit into a nice box and it could be neat and tidy. And then I have a giggle because life is not neat and tidy in a box most of the time.
And I love the fact that our job makes us look at things sometimes as a bit of a puzzle.
Yeah.
And that, our job sometimes is about helping people to put different puzzle pieces together. I really like that. Like that, I think excites me because I think, one, what a privilege to be able to help someone to kind of piece together things that have happened to them and then help them to make sense of it. What a privilege to be part of that process, to be invited in by someone to be part of that. But two, it's so interesting as well.
It is. And I mean, that adds to the no 2 days are the same, no two clients are the same, no two case plans or therapy plans are the same. It is always something different and there is always something to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. So level 2 is what we would term mild dissociation. So this is where we're more frequently zoning out, might feel more spacey, have more difficulty concentrating on a spectrum. It does show up under stress, but it can resolve relatively quickly as well. It's quite common in anxiety, depression, and burnout. And I guess the research would suggest most of our clients exist in like level 2 mild dissociation.
Yeah, but also work is, if it's common anxiety, depression, burnout.
Absolutely. So I think about sitting in lots of different staff meetings. Can you think about the number of times you actually sat in a staff meeting and didn't zone out, or all-day training or half-day training online?
No, I would always zone out.
The levels of mild dissociation going on there.
Would it be mild, or do you reckon it would be... I think there's been times where in some, I can definitely think of some staff activities where there would be mild dissociation, but for me it would sit with normal dissociation, because that stuff just bores the crap out of me. Like, yeah. I'm not good, as you know, Rose, you've seen me in lots of meetings. I'm not good in meetings, because I would just much rather get to the point of it really quickly, not have to talk through the rubbish and the shit. Like, I don't care. I don't care about that. I just want to know, what is the issue and what are we going to do?
Yeah. Experience, plan and act.
Let's just get there.
Yes. And a meeting shouldn't be like a reflection cycle like Kolb's, where you actually have different parts. It should be, here's the problem. What are some of the possible solutions? What do we agree on, and what are the steps, and who's responsible, and what are the timeframes? See you later.
I mean,
in my mind.
Unless that's the purpose of the meeting. Do you know?
Well, that's different. That's supervision. Yeah.
That's right. If the purpose of the meeting is around reflection, then that's fine. Let's get into it. But I hate those meetings that start with 45 minutes. I'm exaggerating, but it feels like 45 minutes of people talking themselves up. Then we get to the purpose of the meeting. Then we get again to people talking themselves up when they're trying to talk about the purpose of the meeting. And then we get to some kind of plan and act cycle. And then it ends. And I think that was 3 hours of my life that I'll never get back.
So if you're doing some normal dissociation in that meeting, that's how clever your brain is. It's just taking you offline because it knows it needs to protect you. Probably from the facial expressions you're going to pull, the tone you're going to use in your voice, maybe your posture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I just don't care.
No. So then there's level 3, which is moderate dissociation. This is depersonalization. So when you feel quite detached from yourself, and some clients would explain it as, or people would explain it as, watching yourself from the outside of your body.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is parts where the world doesn't feel like it's real, and it's like you're in a dreamlike state.
Yeah, that fits when you're thinking about it. It kind of, like you're above watching down or something.
Yeah, that's commonly termed derealization.
Derealization. What a word.
Isn't it cool?
It's a cool word. I'll never say it in a sentence, but it's a cool word.
The other part of moderate dissociation is emotional numbing. So when you're cut off from your own feelings, especially in relation to trauma memories.
Yep.
These are also classic features of PTSD-related dissociation.
Yeah, 100%.
So there is a very functional impact in moderate dissociation. It's when it's starting to become quite significant, and there's a significant impact on your daily functioning.
I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because it's kind of like, the dissociation becomes part of the way that you, maybe part of the way that you survive day in, day out.
Yeah. And if you think about, if you're a practitioner working with, parents, a family system, and there is some moderate dissociation going on with the adults in that family system, you can see how the system could use that as evidence from a different lens, not without this information, without a trauma lens, and understanding dissociation, could use it as evidence of not caring, not trying, not following through.
Being mentally unwell. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can definitely be used. It can be weaponized, can't it?
Yeah.
Like, definitely weaponized.
Which is why we wanted to do this episode, to really get people to think about what they're seeing from their clients. What else could it be apart from mental health? Not caring, not having the ability or the willingness. And then the last level is level 4 and severe dissociation. So this is where identity fragmentation occurs. So parts of the self operate semi-independently with distinct experiences, memories, feelings, or even senses of time. Amnesia for chunks of time or for traumatic events. So not recalling,
Yeah.
having no narrative attached
Yeah.
to large chunks of time. Flashbacks that are so immersive that the person loses awareness of actually the present, state. This is territory of complex PTSD and dissociative disorders. We are not psychologists. This is not diagnostic, but this is where I would perhaps be saying specialised treatment from suitably qualified practitioners need to be stepping in.
Yeah, because it would be just absolutely frightening if you're experiencing that, and it would just have such a functional impact on your life.
Absolutely. And the lives of people around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whilst that feels very kind of scary to think about and to say out loud, most of where we would experience dissociation is in that level 2, level 3. Mild and moderate.
Because I would be thinking that level 4, severe dissociation, there would be some mental health involvement. There would have to be.
Yeah, so maybe I shouldn't have said that. For some of our listeners, they might work in mental health services or mental health hospitals, and this might be their everyday. They might be surrounded by clients who have severe dissociation. So it depends on your practice area.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And I wonder if there's misdiagnoses. Because if you look at like the description of level 4, it could surely be attributed to other conditions.
Definitely. And so I was pausing because I was thinking about your frame of reference and your experience and expertise. And I use that word kind of loosely because we wouldn't say we're experts in anything. But if you were a trauma expert that works primarily with returned soldiers, I would think you would have a lot of expertise and skill in severe dissociation. But if you work in a rural or very remote place and there's not many service system is really lacking, how potentially people could be diagnosed incorrectly, and it could be thought of as something else because the service system's not there or the expertise doesn't live in that place.
So I guess it kind of is reminding me of the importance of understanding a person's history, of doing that kind of life history review.
Yes.
As part of your, and again, that depends on your role, but if you can, and that's part of your role and that's something you can do, it's so important to understand the person's experiences and what they have lived through.
I laugh because I don't think we can say it enough. Understanding a person's lifespan to date is so helpful in this type of work if that's part of your role. But if you're treating, an adult, and understanding their childhood experiences, their early adult, it's so important to be able to put that jigsaw together. Otherwise, you've got missing pieces. You're never going to complete the picture.
Yeah, of course. And but more importantly, if I was somebody who was experiencing severe dissociation, because clearly I've experienced some quite significant trauma in my life that has led to that, then I would really want some assistance with trying to process. Maybe because I guess I wouldn't know the story, but if someone could help me to pad out some of that story, I would really want that, because I guess it's that respect that we need to give people to actually have full understanding of what their history has been. Do you know what I mean? We all need to know where we've come from.
Yes.
We all need to know our life, and we all need to know how this experience has led to this now, like the past to the current.
Yeah. Well, you can't understand the current, can you, if you don't understand the past?
No, and the past always, sorry, Rosa, cut you off. The past always helps you to, let me reframe that. I think the past always gives you clues to the functioning that's happening currently.
Yes.
And we need to understand that, and we need to not gloss over the stuff that's happened before.
Just kind of, you mean, do it as a checklist and not really give much weight to it or thought to it, and just keep moving through.
Yeah. Because your role might be around, well, my role is now. we need to think about now. And you'll always have those people you work with that'll be like, why do you need to know what happened to me when I was 10? That has no relevance to now.
To now.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you need to be able to explain, again, if you can, within the parameters of your role, explain why it is relevant, why you're asking these questions.
Yeah, it's not just because you're nosy.
No.
It's part of a bigger picture in a sense making and providing the best possible service to that person.
Yeah. I mean, if we reframe nosy as curious, it helps to be curious. Don't you think? Of course it does.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the 4
Love it.
stages of dissociation.
Mm.
And I think as practitioners, it's really helpful to understand that continuum or spectrum, whichever word you want to use, and to know that this is, one of the options available to us as mammals to protect us and enable our survival.
Mm.
So the neurobiology of this is very helpful.
Mm.
So what we know is if you experience something really frightening or scary, our nervous system, and this is again polyvagal lens, has 3 kind of broad options. So the first one is flight, fight, or freeze. We all know that, but they're our kind of automatic responses and the options available to us. What the reading I've done lately suggests is that there is a 4th option, and it often gets missed in training, and this is faint. So the technical term is dissociative collapse.
So that's the fawn stuff, is it? Or is that different?
And your fawn
I hate
stuff?
the fawn thing. I hate that. I think I actually really dislike fawn.
So dissociative collapse or the faint, it's the most extreme version of freeze response.
Yes.
And this is where the brain pulls the plug of all consciousness awareness entirely.
So completely different to fawn.
Yes.
Where fawn is about people pleasing to manage the environment.
Yes. This is our brain's like emergency shutdown switch.
Yeah.
This is where that's flashing red and those sirens are going and someone's hitting the final switch to shut it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
hello, faint.
When you can't run, you can't fight, that's not going to create safety and the danger is inescapable and you're trapped. Our brain does what the only option left for our brain is dissociation, the freeze immobilization. It's why often people talk about dissociation in relation to domestic violence and intimate partner violence.
And sexual assault.
Sexual assault, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you are physically trapped. You might also be economically and emotionally trapped and socially trapped. If you fight back, what happens? Might get worse. Maybe you can't leave intimate partner violence because where are you going to go? You have no money, you have no friends because the coercive control's been going on. So there's no options there. Our brain then thinks, well, our brain does what it has to do. It splits off the experiences so we don't have to feel them in the moment. It's survival.
Do you know what I was thinking? And it's kind of related to what you're saying, but also I think neurobiologically very different. Not very different, but also maybe different. Is when you think about the DMM model, so the DMM model of attachment adaptation, and you think about babies and that sack of potato baby, the baby that just goes limp when they have learnt that if they make responses, then it just means pain for them. Then those are the babies that they're called a sack of potato baby because they're just they're limp, but they're not engaged in the world in any way.
Right.
It's almost like this early form of dissociation in terms of not creating any what's the word I'm looking for? Attention. Because attention has meant pain or meant something else for them in the past. And it is a learnt kind of implicit memory response.
But it's also that pattern recognition that our brain has.
Yeah.
And if you think about in our self-harm episode, we looked at Michelle Mitchell's language around voluntary self-harm and habitual self-harm.
Yes.
And that was very clear that habitual self-harm is that, as an example, cutting or this pain plus cutting equals this. Or it's how our neural responses and our neural, connections are wired to understand that this plus this equals this. And so then it becomes that brain patterning and the neurobiology around it. So those babies, those sack of potato babies, their brain is patterned to be a sack of potatoes because it's protective.
Because it's safe.
It's safe. They've learnt that. The brain understands that this is the pattern. It practices it, and it becomes a default response whenever anything feels a bit threatening. And that is why you can relate it to domestic violence, intimate partner violence, sexual assault, severe cases of neglect. If we are repeating the same patterns over and over, our brain takes that in, it creates those neural pathways. That's your blueprint. Something else feels similar, tricky, scary, frightening, our brain recognizes it. Oh, we've been here before, sack of potato, or we've been here before, we'll dissociate.
100%. And I think when I was saying it's kind of similar but maybe also a little bit different neurobiologically is because I guess it depends on the lens you're looking at it through. So if you're looking at that through an attachment lens, you might make some sense out of that sack of potato baby a little bit different than if you're looking at it through this lens of dissociation. But it's so similar, isn't it? And when you think about what you just said in terms of the blueprint, the brain's blueprint, then it makes so much sense that if you experience this kind of very, very early abuse and neglect and you had to develop strategies to survive that, then those strategies are there. They're not going to go away. It's not like, you're 4 now, you can do things differently, so you forget those strategies. That's the blueprint.
And that's why I think there's struggles in working with people who have been significantly traumatized. Their blueprint is wired to this. Maybe thought or feeling means this, so I'm going to disassociate, I'm going to cut, I'm going to whatever it may be. And just providing consistency and predictability and warmth and being unconditionally, positive regard of a relationship with that person, that's not going to work over a month. Like our brain has now this blueprint. So you can see why the time and investment of carers, of practitioners, of teachers, this is a long-term rewiring. You're trying to create a different blueprint for the brain, but the brain is held on to this blueprint, and they say that play is the quickest way to override the blueprints. But this is why it's the road to recovery, I guess, for people who have experienced trauma can take what feels like a very long time for carers and supporters, within the family system, because it's like, well, I've been doing this behaviour support plan for 3 months and it's not working. No, because the brain is blueprinted to say that I now feel, judged or shamed, and my response is just automatically wired from everything I learnt from before. It's fascinating, our brain.
It is fascinating. And I think the problem we have, when you think about this long-term perspective of helping somebody to develop new ways of managing emotional regulation via this kind of rewiring of the brain, is that I'm thinking about this from a child's perspective. If there is, say, 9 months of this really, really positive reparative parenting that's occurring, but then there is one day of something that happens that reminds that blueprint fires.
I've felt this before.
It takes it all the way back. So that's why it is always, thinking about the language of Dan Siegel, it is always 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yes.
I think he said that. Did he say that? I think so. I'm making it up if he didn't. But it sounds like something he would say.
Yes. And I guess in that instance, it's not that those 9 months is a waste.
No.
It just means that we need to be aware that we can be, or I guess the word is triggered. And automatically the response goes back to what we know. But it's about, if you think about Dan's window of tolerance, it's about widening or stretching that window of tolerance. So when the next time the body feels threatened again, it may not revert the whole way back.
Or you might not be offline for as long.
Yes. So you're just stretching that window of tolerance. It might be so narrow, and we're just trying to expand it to create the space for our executive functioning to be online longer. And for us not to be offline as long.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess we kind of started this example with children, but the same thing happens in adults. Exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes with adults, when they don't have a relationship to act as a reparative agent, and they have to be, I guess, processing trauma on their own and constantly using CBT strategies, for example, to be in the here and now, to be present so that they're aware of what's going on. I think it's harder for adults who don't have that support system around them to always be conscious and to remember that slowly this trauma is being processed. Slowly they are developing different ways of managing intense emotional reactions. And that, a slip up, or not even a slip up, I won't use that word, but a trigger that triggers that blueprint doesn't mean it's all going to go back.
I'm done. No. I facilitated some training a few months ago, and a participant in the training described it as playing snakes and ladders.
Yeah.
But every time the ladders just get a little bit shorter. So you still fall down the ladder, but the ladders are no longer as long as they once were.
I think that would work. That analogy would work for children and adults.
Great visual.
Yeah.
You might fall back down, but it's not all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ladders are just getting shorter. That's the aim, right? In recovery, that your ladders get shorter.
Yeah.
Because it's inevitable. You cannot control the smells that might trigger you, the sound. You can't control any of that. You can't control other people. So you could be walking down the street and something very violent and threatening is occurring. Your body, you can't control that person. You can't control the experience. You're going to fall down your ladder. But hopefully with support, with education, with some therapeutic intervention, if that's what's needed, all of the other things that you're doing in recovery, your ladders just get shorter and shorter. Good, isn't it?
Yeah, I like
it.
So
clever.
Thank you, training participant. That's a good one.
So it's really important to understand that dissociation, it's not a choice. There's no cognitive, attachment to it.
I mean, the jury's out for me on level 1.
Well, level 1, I'm talking when we're in, mild, moderate, and definitely severe.
Great. I agree.
Yeah. I think level 1, that's a spectrum in itself of consciousness or not.
I agree.
Yeah. So I guess dissociation is very interesting, but if you think about, we've used an example about a woman, victim survivor of intimate partner violence. If, let's say, that woman's dissociation is somewhere between level 2 and level 3, mild, moderate, you can see how, as practitioners, it's helpful to be aware of that, because the service systems we all work in, they're not all trauma responsive or trauma informed. I mean,
they'll probably say they're trauma informed.
Maybe.
But are they trauma responsive?
But you can see how asking types of questions in an assessment could feel threatening to a victim survivor and could, invoke a dissociative response. And then you can see how we could interpret that as something different. And then, I guess, use the protective strategies that is not a choice, that is, in all of us, because we're all mammals, but we could use that and weaponize that. And I know we made the point before, but I just want to be super clear that this is why understanding dissociation is so helpful.
Do you know who I really wish could understand this a little bit more? Is the legal system.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and I think the police, I'm just talking generally, I hope the police are getting better and understanding this as a process. But I don't know if that's true or if I just think that. But I think the whole legal system is set up for people to talk about the narrative. It's about what happened in every little tiny little minute detail, what happened. And you can see just from what we've said in this, however long we've been talking, 40 minutes we've been talking, it's impossible to be able to recall every minute detail if whatever happened to you has led to dissociation, because you can't recall it.
Yeah. Yes. And I understand that, well, in our legal system, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. And so absolutely there needs to be a way to test what's provided. But I do agree with you that there are oftentimes so much other different evidence, physical evidence, expert evidence, but we always still go back to the victim, survivor usually, to tell this timeline narrative in such specific detail that on an ordinary day, I wonder if I would have the cognitive ability and recall to even do that.
Yeah.
Without adding in a layer of trauma or stress where the body is that frightened, that scared, that it has fallen down the ladder. Like, imagine.
I can't imagine.
And then add it like 9 to 18 months later when you're in court having to give evidence. And just the mere fact that someone has to walk in front of a magistrate or a judge, a barrister, a prosecutor, whoever, a jury, recorders, court staff, and sit there feeling like they're under the spotlight answering questions as if that's not traumatizing in itself. So your body's going to do its natural things. It's going to want to run. It's going to want to fight. And then, freeze.
Yeah.
But we expect people to have all this cognitive ability in that situation to give a lovely time frame, sequenced, detailed account. It's kind of insane.
It is insane. It's an unrealistic expectation. And I have no comments about how it should be changed because I obviously am not a legal person, but I think it should be changed. Like, I don't know how it can be changed, but I think it should be changed because it's not okay. And the amount of people that I see, and I'm just talking about my own practice here, who have been so traumatized by the court process, and it's left them really angry, and it's left them really feeling unheard, and the fact that they've had to justify their story on the stand during their evidence has made them feel so vulnerable.
Yes, and then imagine if the outcome is not.
Yeah.
One of a result that says that you were believed.
100%.
Talk about adding an extra layer of really complex nuance to someone's recovery.
Yeah.
Re-traumatization, trauma-inducing, all of that.
I mean, I think it can surely it can be done in a better way. Like there's always been, not always been, but there's, over time there has been some very slow changes to court processes and to legal processes. So, thinking about the way that children's court happens now versus the way it used to happen, the fact that there are kind of support people, witness support roles now for people who have experienced violence, that's great. But I wonder if there can be more done.
Good question. All right, let's think about what do we do if someone's disassociating in front of us? What do we do? The very first thing that I have learnt through the reading I've done lately is to be calm. I mean, who would have thought, right? So if you think about your own window of tolerance as a practitioner, this is why it's super important to be aware of your own responses and what you look like when you're stressed or maybe feeling a little frightened. But remaining calm and not panicking is the very first step. So you need to be able to remain at the top of your ladder in that safe and connected state. If you think about it from a polyvagal lens or from Dan's window of tolerance, you really need to be in your window of tolerance. If you're anxious, if you're escalated, if you're, in a fight state and your posture and your tone in your face has all of those symptoms of fight state, you're going to escalate this situation.
Or I think the opposite, and I think it's what you said, like if you feel overwhelmed yourself because you feel out of your depth around how to manage this situation or how to support this person, then that's going to cause you to internally panic as well.
Yes. That's why as practitioners it's so important to understand how we can regulate ourselves and how we can use the same grounding techniques that we're hopefully teaching our clients for ourselves so we can be reflexive in the moment and actually make sure that we're calm.
Absolutely. What grounding techniques do you use for yourself?
I trace my finger around my hand and I breathe. So in for 4, I try and hold it, and then out for 5.
So
in for 4, out for 5.
In our like in a situation, you would do that?
If I'm with a client and they can't see my hands, I often under the desk
You
will
would
start tracing my hand and just start to breathe.
Yeah.
And often just thinking about breathing and moving my hand gets me to a space of regulation.
Yeah.
If they can see my hands though, I've started the exercise you talked about a few episodes ago. What do I feel under my feet?
Yeah.
And now use that if they can, because obviously you don't want your practitioner doing this.
Yeah.
But I will now, if they can see my hands, I'll think about what do I feel under my feet.
I do that all the time, and toe scrunching and counting to 10.
Yeah. Okay.
All the time, and I've done it for years. And I've done it in every situation where it has provoked some anxiety or some stress for me. I will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, constantly.
And you use the fidgets too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I haven't used a fidget today, but I've been trying not to fidget.
Have you?
Oh, you haven't noticed?
Well, I have, but I thought maybe I shouldn't raise it, but I think it's interesting that you haven't touched one at all today.
I know.
You have looked at them a bit though.
Well, yeah,
we have a fidget basket on our
they're like
desk,
following me.
And Jodie's line of sight has continuously gone to that kind of section, which I find fascinating.
Isn't that interesting? Because I didn't even realize I was doing that.
Yeah,
I have been really conscious of trying not to move as much. Not that I ever watch these videos, but
so it's for the video. It's not for. I love it.
Well, because I think imagine these poor people watching, and I'm like all over the place.
Yeah, that's true. Don't know who would watch us, but anyway. The second step after you've remained calm and collected is grounding. So bringing someone back to the present moment, and what the reading I've done suggests is that using something cold as an anchor really works. So
really works well.
I've read lately of therapists who have ice balls in their therapy rooms.
It's actually a great idea.
And so they just say when clients walk into the room, hey, if throughout the session you notice that you're starting to drift, you can pick some ice up, giving some choice then to people. Isn't that fascinating?
I've never thought to use ice in a session. It's certainly been a strategy I've talked a lot about because it's so effective as a grounding strategy. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I tend to use the fidget toys and even the, depending where we're sitting, the putty.
Yeah, putty is good. And we have putty that is extra tough down to
extra soft,
because everyone's got a different sensory profile, don't they? But what I've read is that cold is definitely the best anchor. So a wet washer, if you can't access ice, putting water on your face, on your hands if it's cold is a really good grounding.
It makes sense. Sorry, I just cut you off.
Yeah.
It makes sense because it brings you back. And it's that thing we have to always remember for ourselves but also for others that here and now is always safe. Right now you are safe. So we can remind people of that by helping them to come back to the here and now.
Yeah.
You might not be safe 5 minutes away. You might not be safe 5 minutes ago. But here and right now you're safe.
Yeah. And so that's really that stabilization, isn't it? Reinforcing you are safe. Maybe, when I talked about this episodes ago, I asked the young person what, after she was grounded, we had some food, we had a brief different chat, but then I launched straight into where did you go, what did it feel like, what just happened? Whereas the readings and research I've done later is saying that it's probably best to say, I've just noticed, and we might talk about that later. So you don't rush them to talk about what happened straight away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because
they don't even know.
No, and also they might not be fully grounded.
Yeah.
And you don't want to push someone back into a dissociative state.
Yeah.
You want to actually make sure that they are grounded, they feel that felt sense of safety, and they are back in their window of tolerance. Me jumping in and asking questions could have absolutely pushed her back down outside that window.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because if you feel like you have to actually have an explanation for what just happened when you don't know what just happened. It's like asking a kid why they lied when they don't know why they lied.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Why'd you lie? I didn't lie.
What?
You did lie. And suddenly you were like having a big fight. When really, Well, they don't know. They don't know they don't know. So why are we pushing it?
And also, is that the hill you want to die on?
Mm.
So, and then the next thing is about education.
Yeah.
So not, again, in the same session if someone's disassociated, but as a practitioner, how do you provide some education around dissociation and linking it to being a survival response, and in these stages, because we're talking 2, 3, and 4, an automatic response, because the last thing we want to do is add an extra layer of shame for our clients.
And I think the thing is, it would be so frightening.
Imagine the first time.
Well, not even just the first time, but imagine the first time. But losing chunks of time and not feeling like you can be in control. Do you know what I mean? It would be absolutely frightening.
Yeah.
And all I can kind of equate it to is, as you know, I've had a recent experience of vertigo, and that was so frightening because I was not in control. And then when I think about that experience, and for me, the frightening part was about not being
in control of your body. And your
brain.
Cognitive, yep.
Absolutely. And then I think about disassociation, where you're not in control of when it happens. It's such
your body's, the brain is taking you offline, you're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be so scary.
It would be absolutely frightening. And then to be made to feel responsible for that in some way.
Yeah.
Which I'm just sitting here thinking, I've probably done that to people. Made them feel responsible for things that they have no control about. Thank goodness I've learned.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not cool.
I would agree. I'm sure I have too. So we need to be patient. We need to understand disassociation. We need to be able to share some of the education with our clients.
Yep.
And we also need to have some kind of go-to strategy if we're working with parents who are disassociating kind of more frequently.
Yeah.
And they have children. We need to be able to work around how do we keep children in the home safe if mum and or dad are disassociating frequently.
Yes, of course.
How do we have those conversations with mum and or dad? How do we develop a safety plan that a child at their age and stage of development is going to be able to understand and enact, and again, do all of this without shaming anyone in the family system?
That's a very good question, Rose. How do we do that?
Well, there's so many different tools online from different psychologists, social workers, organisations. I guess you said the word safety plan. It is absolutely a safety plan. How do you write a safety plan with mum and or dad and the child to talk about if the child sees this and they're at home alone with mum and or dad and they're, our words, disassociating, what does the child need to do? Is that the child needs to go to their bedroom and shut their door and they've got a device that they know that they're allowed to be on for a while? They can watch the TV. Is it that there is I would say a dumb phone or a smartphone in the home that the child has the ability, and it's been taught to them that they can ring someone in the family system, a grandparent, an auntie, a neighbour, whoever, to say, can you come and help us?
Is it if they're a little bit older, they can go and get a piece of ice and put it in their parent hand to help them to come back?
Yeah.
Like, is that an option? I guess it's so individual, isn't it, in terms of what will work for that particular family.
And that's why you need to know the levels of disassociation, but also understanding from the family system. And this is where you need to have such good relationship skills so you can actually do this kind of assessment in a way that's not going to trigger a shame response or a blame response, and it's going to be seen as something useful that people actually want to contribute because they'll know what's going to work for them. And no two family safety plans will look the same.
Yeah.
But children, as young as 5 can be involved in safety planning.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It just means the strategies that you're going to put in the safety plan are strengths-based from the family and either practiced or taught so we know it can be enacted when needed.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to me because think about any family where there is a chronic illness or something that is that causes additional stress to the family unit, then children need to be taught how to manage that themselves, whatever that issue is.
And you think if you have a parent who has epilepsy, we talk with the family members around the EpiPen and the procedure, and is this because there's stigma attached to dissociation? Is this because there's a lack of awareness in the sector? I don't know, but I feel like if we have the same mentality that children, they're not responsible to meet their parents' needs, but if we, for a physical health issue, can teach practical steps and create safety plans, we can also for psychological distress.
Yeah, we can and we should.
Yeah, absolutely, because it'll help the ladders get shorter.
Absolutely, but it also I think creates hope for change.
Yes.
But it also creates mastery over being able to manage very complex issues.
Yes. So I think definitely safety planning with the children in the home is something as a practitioner that I wish I'd known to do years ago.
Years ago, though, would you have even identified dissociation?
Probably not as much as what I see now.
Yeah.
But I definitely can recall a family where I think back and I think what a missed opportunity that mum was absolutely dissociating frequently.
Yeah.
And I think the system and myself added to her dissociation and her stress and blamed and I viewed it as something very different, and I did not provide any of the tools to that family to help them live safer.
No, but she didn't know to either.
Yeah, but I still doesn't. That one family, when I think about dissociation, just stands out as missed opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I think hindsight and reflection. On action is a great thing.
Yeah.
We should all be thinking about how we could have done things differently, because that's part of reflection and growing.
Yeah. So the only other thing I really want to say is that dissociation absolutely can happen for children.
Does happen.
And depending on what field of practice you work in, you might see it a lot more. And also for children on the autism spectrum, I guess there's a real need for very careful consideration around social withdrawal sensory shutdown and repetitive behaviours, linking that to ASD and or what is dissociation. Because if you think about the children who have an autism profile that have also been abused and neglected and have traumatic experiences and have trauma, and there are definitely overlap between the symptoms of ASD and trauma. And so really understanding an autism profile and dissociation, if you're working with those children with that type of profile, needs extra caution to actually really consider what is it we're seeing and looking at here. And don't discount dissociation because it's linked to an ASD profile, I guess.
Do you sometimes find ASD, so children with an ASD diagnosis, it's almost like it's a label, but nobody actually takes it into any consideration when I don't know, support strategies are being discussed or planning is done?
Yeah.
I find that so often.
And it's also kind of used as this global statement, Rose as autism level 2 diagnosis. Okay. And on the conversation goes. And when, I've asked recently 2 different families and services I've been working with, what does that mean for this child?
Yeah, absolutely. How does it impact on their day-to-day functioning?
Yeah, and I've been met with silence both times, and then a shopping list of things, and I'm like, okay, can you tell me more? And I want to go through the shopping list. Tell me more about this. When was the last time you saw it? And the time before that? So on a scale of 0 to 10, is this, and you really drill into it. And some of the information I've been getting back recently is just mind-blowing. It's like, doesn't almost, I don't know, either the articulation's not there or we've just got this label and you should just nod and continue to move on.
Yeah.
But I want to know what it means. What does it mean every day for this person?
I'm really glad that you've experienced that
What
too.
does it look like? What does it mean that how do I need to work with this person?
Yeah.
How does the school need to work? What considerations?
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me about this child, great, but tell me something. Don't just give me a label.
Yeah, don't lead with the label. Like, that then explains everything.
Well, that's the other thing. And I guess that was like children and dissociation could be a whole other episode. But I just really wanted to make the point, if you're working with a child who has ASD, don't just discount that there is no dissociation if they've also got a trauma background.
Absolutely.
Because some of what we put down as ASD symptoms, features, may actually be dissociation, and they need to be treated differently.
I mean, I think I can think of one little boy who was in a, has a very complex care history, was in a placement where he received a whole heap of different diagnoses, and seemingly part of his presentation in that placement was clearly dissociation, like clearly. It wasn't labelled as that, but clearly that's what it was. And that kind of fed into some of the diagnoses. He didn't have a diagnosis of dissociation at all, but he had lots of other diagnoses.
Yeah.
But in a different care environment, has none of those diagnoses, but still sometimes has a little bit of dissociation.
Because that's his blueprint.
That's his blueprint now. That's right. That's right. But but that dissociation was very clearly weaponized and then used to support the making of other diagnoses that had such a significant impact on his life that were not true diagnoses. Interesting.
God, that's sad.
It's really sad. Really sad. And I've got to tell you, it was the agency that case managed him that really was a really strong advocate for him in terms of getting actual, clear, accurate diagnoses for him, so that moving forward he could actually have some really good planning around what this means for his life.
Yeah.
So
it's so nice to hear.
It is really nice to hear, and I've got to give full credit to that agency and of course his current carer, who is just amazing, because they really made such a difference to that kid's life.
And the trajectory of his life.
Yeah.
He's no longer just a whole list of diagnoses on a piece of paper where we go, well, that's the norm, that's the expectation. That's the very limiting full stop for that child.
That's absolutely. Yeah.
Well, well done, whoever that agency was. So do you think you said at the start that you were curious about dissociation and you weren't sure. What are you thinking now? Where are you sitting?
I think that you were right, and I think that I knew a lot more about dissociation than I thought that I did.
I'm always right when it comes to your skills.
That's true. I think that for me, I love the levels, the spectrum, because that makes so much more sense to me. Because, when I think about level 1 in particular, and that question for me around, that curiosity for me around, what does that look like? I now see it doesn't actually matter. The level 1, definition of dissociation kind of fits. Like, it can be daydreaming, it can be this kind of, I like that highway hypnosis thing. I like that term because it just is so clear, isn't it? And it's so prevalent when you might be feeling a little bit stressed. And you're driving, you just kind of, lights are on, but nobody's telling you. It looks like you're on automatic pilot.
Yes. I also think it's good to understand that, and I'm talking from a practitioner's point of view, because I wouldn't say often now, but there was a time where I was frequently highway hypnosis, and I'd get home and I'd think,
how did I get here?
Well, I'd get home and think, fuck. And I'd kind of sit in the car and I'd get it. I'd then have this anxiety and panic around. And what it actually is a real sign of, actually, you need to maybe take some time to think about what's happening for you. Because, if you think about our barriers to recognizing a stress situation as workers, I've just got to make it to Friday. I've just got to get through to Christmas. I've just got to get through to my next holiday. I've just got to. And we don't tend to step back and think holistically around actually what is the impact, what's happening, what is my body telling me? Stop and listen. We can do it for our clients, and sometimes it's really hard to hold the mirror to ourselves. But I think now and it does not happen very often anymore, but the last time it did happen, I was like, get a grip, Rose. You actually need to think about, what is this telling you? This is a sign from your body, something that is not, very conscious to you right now is happening, and you need to actually, it was a warning sign for me. Get this under control, because I don't want to go back to the spot where I'm getting to my garage thinking, well, how'd I get here?
Yeah, thank God I made it alive.
Yeah. Yes. So, it's a good, as a practitioner, I now take that as a very good warning sign that I need to actually take stock and maybe get some supervision, or ask, you or a trusted colleague, friend, and say, can you help me try and unpack what's happening? Because I've just got home without knowing how I got home.
I think that's such a great way to end this episode, because I think that's such a good message for workers.
Yeah.
Because it is about holding that mirror up, isn't it? And it is about being curious as to how you are processing the vicarious trauma that you are experiencing because you work with people. Really.
Yeah.
It's the world that you're in when you work with people, really.
Yeah. And we do have barriers that make it very difficult for us to realise the extent of the impact. But yeah, those warning signs from our body, if we can learn to recognise them and take some steps to do something different, even if that's just a supervision conversation, because early intervention is very much the key to continuing a career in this space where we remain physically and mentally well.
100%.
Yeah.
And we've said so many times before, this job should not take your mental health.
No.
It should not. And it's so easy for it to happen. And you have to be proactive yourself to make sure that does not happen.
So, next time you're sitting in one of those meetings we talked about earlier, maybe have a think if you've done some level 1 normal dissociation, or are you moving up the spectrum?
It'll always be level 1 for me. No, that's not true. I'm sure there's been times in different meetings where I've moved up the spectrum because I've had a stress response, usually anger. Or something.
Still a stress response.
Yeah, or a stress response. All right. Thank you, Rose. Can I just say thank you? Because that was great. I would not have thought to actually do this topic, and I'm so glad that you did. And I'm so glad that you were so informative about it, because I've learned so much.
Well, I did say I'm not an expert. I have done a lot of work in and reading about dissociation in the last couple of months. There is still lots more that I don't know, but I do think I wish it's a topic we had discussed more in, formal studies, but also in the workplaces, training, around training, because it is all around us. And if we can understand it better, we can do better jobs.
Yeah, I agree.
We can help more people live safely in the world.
I agree. All right. Well, this brings us to the end of another episode of Relational Practice, a social work podcast. We hope today's discussion was valuable for your practice. It was definitely valuable for my practice. Valuable. To ensure you're always in the loop, please follow our podcast. Your subscription and social media engagement also helps us to build a community and make these important conversations more accessible to other social workers.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate you coming back and listening to our episodes.
We do.
We'll see you next fortnight. Until then, stay safe and remember to always practice relationally.
See you later.
But maybe